Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, Disney Marvel has broken open its piggy bank. It is selling it off its firstborn, and it is stretching its credit cards to the limits because the amount of money that they had to pay in order to get the Russo Brothers back and Robert Downey Jr. to return to the Marvel Cinematic Universe is absolutely insane. If any of the reports out there are currently to be believed, and I'd imagine, boys and girls, the numbers, if anything, are probably a little bit underestimated as to what they actually had to crack open in order to get these two, well, this group of legendary people back involved in the MCU. And boys and girls, that's exactly what we've got right here, because it looks like in Bob Iger and the Disney boards and Kevin Feige's desperation, they absolutely are breaking the piggy bank and betting big on something to hopefully revitalize the very, very poor MCU that we've seen over the last few years. And it's kind of funny, boys and girls, because when we get down to the actual numbers, I'd imagine these numbers are more money that they have made in profit over the last few years than any of that kind of stuff, than what they're actually paying these guys. And that, I think, is funny. They are literally going broke in order to pay these guys the money they is to hopefully revitalize what is on its way to being a dying brand if the MCU doesn't turn itself around right now. Obviously, Deadpool and Wolverine has been a huge success, but even if that movie makes $1.5 billion or $2 billion, it will not come close to making up for all of the losses that Disney has had over the last few years on its Marvel brand between the Disney Plus streaming services and, of course, its movies that have failed at the box office and cost them hundreds of millions of dollars time and time again over the last couple of years. So, boys and girls, we're going to get into this article from Variety.com and see exactly how desperate Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are to save the floundering MCU. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe and or follow if you have not already, because, boys and girls, we are inching our way closer and closer to 1,000, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below letting us know, do you think this is an insane amount of money? Does it surprise you at all that they are that desperate? Or do you think this is just what the kind of level of money these people with this kind of credentials actually deserve? So, from Variety.com by Tatiana Siegel, behind Robert Downey Jr. and the Russo Brothers' mega adventure Paydays. After a bruising year, even Variety has to admit that things have been rough for Disney Marvel over the last few years. Even they cannot deny it. And honestly, that's probably the absolute nicest way of saying that. I think a much more accurate description is that the Disney Marvel has been in a disastrous dumpster fire for the last few years and has been bleeding money left and right to no avail whatsoever. No matter how much they try to double down on the DIE, it always ends up failing them miserably. Boy, I can't wait to see how Thunderbolts and Captain America 4 Brave New World, with starring Falcon and not Captain America, actually ends up doing. After a bruising year, Marvel is returning to the very thing that worked in the past. Oh, wow. It's almost like if something has worked before, it will work again. And something that doesn't work will not work again. It's almost like there's nothing new under the sun, and history doesn't just repeat itself, it also rhymes. Weird concept, I know. That means reuniting with franchise crown jewel Robert Downey Jr. as well as the Russo Brothers, who directed the two most successful movies for the studio with Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame. But bringing back members of the old gang won't come cheap. Sources say Marvel is plunking down $80 million. $80 million for Anthony and Joe Russo to direct Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. $80 million is more money that they've made in profit over the last year on any of the movies they've released, boys and girls, overall. I mean, what was the profit margin on Captain Marvel 2? Oops, I mean the Marvels. Oh, that's right. It lost them hundreds of millions of dollars. Yeah, things aren't going so well over that. By the way, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Let's see. I'm pretty sure there's probably a very good argument to make for the fact that Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness have done it. And then, of course, we've seen the numbers of how well their streaming services have done, which we know has cost them billions of dollars as well. So needless to say, ladies and gentlemen, $80 million is more money than Disney has made in profit overall off of the Marvel brand over the last couple of years off of their movies and television series. It's more than that. They're literally paying these guys more than that. Like I said, they're literally going broke in order to do this. And and significantly more for Downey to tackle the uber villain Doctor Doom in 2 tentpoles. Oh yeah, and also to come back as Tony Stark Iron Man as well. Just a friendly FYI, spoiler alert, in case you were wondering why they're actually doing this. And yeah, significantly more. Well, $80 million is a huge chunk of money for most of us out there, boys and girls. So how much are they paying him? $100 million? $120? $140 million? Significantly more. So between the Russo brothers and Robert Downey Jr., they are going to spend more money on those two, on just those 3 people, than they did for entire budgets of other movies that have cost them hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office. I cannot imagine the insane budget for these two movies if you're already starting off, probably a good 150, well, it'd have to be more than 150, a good $200 million in the hole already just out from the gate. You better let the Russo brothers do their own thing and make it their own way and actually make it good and make the fans happy. Funny about that, hold on, boys and girls, because we're not done yet. There's actually a very good possibility that Kevin Feige and Bob Iger are so desperate to make something good that's actually going to succeed, and they realize their own rot inside of their own studio can't make that happen. They're actually letting the Russo brothers do their own thing on all of this, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But bringing back key members of the old gang won't come cheap. Some sources say, we talked about that, the Doctor Doom. The Russo's deal doesn't include back-end compensation, which could make up for a little bit more of that. But it also saves them a lot of hassle if these movies do end up failing miserably, which is something we've seen on the past few releases from Disney Marvel. It's probably best to get paid up front. Because if for some reason Disney decides to stick their hand in the middle of all of this and screw it all up, well, them back ends ain't going to be worth a whole lot. Now, is it there, boys and girls? Let's see what else we got here. So yeah, the Russo's deal doesn't include back-end compensation, but it does contain performance escalators that kick in at $750 million and $1 billion threshold. So that the movie is actually done well and it is a success, they will end up making even more. The brothers will also produce the 2 films via their AGBO banner. That marks something of a departure for Marvel. That marks a first for Marvel. That marks a first for Disney Marvel. They have been in absolute control of all of this stuff since the Fox acquisition gave them the complete and total keys to the kingdom, with the exception of Hulk. And boys and girls, this is exactly what they've been doing, which also shows you how much of a disastrous dumpster fire all of this stuff has been when the House of Mouse does everything for themselves. So now the boys or girls are going to get to do it under their own banner, which means Disney producers and Disney executives won't have their hand up everybody's butt out there going, yes, this is what we want you to say. DIE, why isn't there enough representation? We need a girl boss. We need a girl boss scene like we had in Infinity War with all the girls coming together. We don't care if it breaks canon or the entire thing of the movie. No, we don't care about that. This could potentially mean that the Russo brothers are going to get to do this without a bunch of interference from the primary Disney Marvel studio. Now, boys and girls, wouldn't that be something amazing? Wouldn't that be a drastic reset? And wouldn't that also be probably spread out a little bit of the costs of this movie as well? Because we do know that Disney Marvel is broke. Could this be the beginning of them, I don't know, licensing things out to be made by other people? They're already licensing it to a different banner, not their producers. Does this mean we might actually get something good out of Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars? Does this mean they're actually going to be able to reset the universe like what we've been speculating on for a while with the Avengers Secret Wars movie? This could be interesting, boys and girls. For Downey, who helped catapult the Marvel into the money printing machine, Tony Stark, yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of rumors talking about all of that, the trailer in camp, then talking about a lot of the history. So according to one knowledgeable source, Downey is by far the highest paid member of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and has pulled between $500 million and $600 million over the course of 4 Avengers movies, 3 Iron Man outings, and cameos in The Incredible Hulk, Captain America Civil War, and Spider-Man Homecoming. Still, some changes are in order. While the Russo Brothers' previous two Avengers movies shot in Atlanta, the new outings will be filmed in London beginning in the second quarter of 2025. Which the nice part about that is, why is Disney doing this? Why are they moving from Atlanta to London? Well, a lot of it has to do with the tax breaks, because the United Kingdom gives you huge tax breaks for filming movies in their country, specifically in London, especially when you include a lot of major parts of a lot of historical things, right? The other great part about that for all of us out there is, at some point down the line, because these tax filings have to be made public because of UK's laws out there, we will know exactly how much money they spent on this movie prior to marketing. So we will know beyond a shadow of a doubt whether or not these movies are successful and whether or not they actually make a profit. That's one of the cool parts about that. So although Marvel has become the most dominant brand in cinemas for the first 30 films, it began to show cracks in 2023. It just started to show cracks in 2023. I think a few of us will disagree on that, because I had issues with WandaVision. They ruined one of my favorite characters and turned her into a villain, which honestly, WandaVision was the last MCU product that I went into and watched willingly without having to do something for my job because of it. And that was the last time. Yeah, Infinity War would have been the last movie I saw in theaters. I haven't seen anything outside of Deadpool and Wolverine since then in theaters. I didn't even see Spider-Man Homecoming in theaters. I watched it when it came on to streaming later on. That's how much they burned me with what they did with WandaVision. So yeah, it goes back a little bit farther than 2023. But when you actually want to get into box office numbers, fair. And honestly, the ho-hum Ant-Man, no. What about Eternals, boys and girls? Ant-Man sequel that brought in just $467 million. And coupled with a disastrous The Marvels, which barely cleared the 200 million mark globally. Adding to the angst on Burbank, the entire future of the Avengers arc that centered around villain Kang had to be scrapped amid ads and Major's legal troubles. Marvel parent company Disney cut ties with it, yada, yada, yada. In short order, director Justin Cretton exited Avengers Kang Dynasty. So that's why all of this stuff is happening. Sources says Downey, who is repped by WME, agreed to return to the MCU if the Russos, who are CAA clients, would be directing. They're the only ones he would work with, says sources familiar with the deal making. After all, the brothers' two Avengers movies earned almost a whopping $4.8 billion combined. As Marvel looks to regain its footing, a Downey Russo's reteaming is a perfect combination of timing and everyone being on the same page, says one executive close to the project. Like I said at the beginning of this, Disney Marvel is desperate. They know that they have had one disastrous dumpster fire at the box office again and again and again. They also know internally, as well as we know from their own streaming numbers from Nielsen and Samba, that every Disney Marvel show has gotten progressively worse in its numbers and in its ratings. It's gotten bad. They know they are in a bad spot. This new direction they tried going with, this female-centric women power nonsense, all of this other kind of stuff, instead of sticking to good storytelling and giving us what the fans wanted and giving us the characters we know and love, they instead decided to go in this new direction, and it has failed them miserably. It has cost them billions of dollars overall, and now they not only are they breaking the piggy bank to bring back the only two guys that they think, or the only three guys that they think might actually be able to revive what has caused a foundling out there. It's the only thing that will actually cause the fans to maybe trust Marvel again. But at the end of the day, that's the biggest problem they have. Disney Marvel has a lack of trust with their fans, their audiences, and their customer. And at the end of the day, if you're not making your customers happy, you're going to fail miserably, and it's going to continue to cost you billions of dollars over and over again. So do I think this will end up working out and panning out? I have no idea, but it's going in the right direction. This is a good sign. Marvel, unlike Star Wars, has not completely and totally lost all of the majority of its fan base out there. Deadpool and Wolverine proves that if you do a good job and people actually expect a good movie that sticks to the source material and understands the characters very well, and especially made by fans, we will show up and make you filthy rich and make your box office explode. If you decide to keep going the direction that Disney Marvel has done, giving us characters we don't want, rewriting characters, changing them, and making it very obvious that diversity, inclusion, and equity is the only thing you care about and not good storytelling and not making your fans and customers happy, well, we'll sit back, laugh at you, ridicule you, mock you, and watch you burn down to the ground. So here's a cute little idea, Kevin Feige, Bob Iger. Give the Russo brothers carte blanche and let them do whatever they want. Because that, right now, is your only hope of ever succeeding again with this Marvel Cinematic Universe. And outsourcing and maybe licensing a few things out to a few independent studios, and especially people who know and love these characters, might not be the worst decision ever. So, here we go, boys and girls. Disney, Bob Iger, and Kevin Feige have literally cracked open the piggy bank, and they are desperate. The real question is whether or not this gamble will pay off.